Temperatures on the rise, it's important to focus attention on the potential dangers of heat exposure. Joining us today, we have Brent Durking with North Star EMS to talk about these heat-related emergencies. You know, and a lot of these things are common sense, but it can sneak up on you before you know it, can't it?
Well, it really can. And, you know, we saw Mickey's forecast earlier about, you know, the temperatures are on the rise, and this is just the beginning. And as we move on through July and into August, you know, we will be experiencing elevated temperatures, and it really does affect people out there, especially the young and our elderly population.
So what do we need to watch out for?
Well, you know, there's typically heat emergencies are classified in 3 different categories. You have what's called heat cramps, and heat cramps are basically defined as you're out in the heat, you might be working, playing sports, and you literally have cramping.
Yeah, we see that happen on the football field all the time.
Exactly, exactly. And you notice they'll bring the athlete to the sidelines, and they'll fill them full of Gatorade to replace electrolytes to you know, correct that imbalance. And they might
but that can happen to anybody. My husband has terrible cramps just after mowing the grass or something because he gets dehydrated.
That's right. That's exactly what it is. So, you know, in those types of situations, while it might not be a life-threatening emergency, it could be a precursor that something could occur if you stayed in the heat and didn't stop and rest and replace water the way that you're supposed to.
Okay.
The second one is called heat exhaustion. And heat exhaustion is when you find yourself out there working in the heat. You're not really preconditioned to working in the heat, and you start sweating profusely. You know, you're having difficulty breathing, or you're breathing faster. And, you know, it's the body's natural response to sweat and to cause you to breathe faster, because that's the way you release heat from the body, and the sweat absorbs into the air, and that cools the body. But if it's hot outside and if the humidity is high, the evaporation of the sweat from the skin doesn't occur as rapidly, so you start getting hotter and hotter. And that could again be a precursor to something more seriously happening. The third classification is heat stroke. Now, that's the most serious of all these heat emergencies, and in this particular case you find that the body is extremely warm to touch, they've quit sweating, and actually they'll fall unconscious. Now,
so when you stop sweating,
that's
and it's
serious.
Still hot, you've really crossed the line into a very critical situation.
Yes,
right?
Exactly. So, you know, it's really important to recognize these situations, because if you're experiencing heat exhaustion and or heat stroke, we really recommend from an EMS perspective, stop, dial 911, get the paramedics en route as soon as possible. And, you know, if they're conscious, certainly try to replenish some fluids. But in heat stroke, it's really important to try to cool them down as quickly as possible. So remove them from the source of heat, get them in a cool environment. They have to take some clothing off, and put cold, cool towels on them. And just one other thought, just real quick, Janet, is don't forget pets. You know, this is that time of year. You know, last year we had so many headlines about, you know, children being locked in cars, etc. You know, there's a little saying, look before you lock. So if you're in the car, look around, because if it's hot outside, the inside temperatures can skyrocket.
A lot of it is common sense, but it can sneak up.
Exactly.
So pay attention to yourself and your loved ones.
That's right.
Thanks for being with us.
No,
we
thank you,
appreciate
Janet.
You being here.